Harry once again betrays his own father, His Majesty the King, yes, King Charles.
Royal watchers thought this might be the long-awaited thaw, Prince Harry crossing the ocean, stepping into Clarence House, and sitting down with his father for a private peace talk. But what unfolded wasn't reconciliation. It was betrayal dressed in polite silence. Insiders say Harry didn't come empty-handed, he came armed with a list of demands. Not small asks, either. Financial backing, full security, titles for Meghan and the children, even whispers of legal help. And instead of a warm embrace, he was met with stone-cold resistance. The timeline itself tells the story. Less than 55 minutes total, barely 20 of actual conversation. No William, though he was close by, and Queen Camilla in the room, her presence reminding Harry this wasn't a father-son chat. This was business, protocol, monarchy. When Harry walked out, there were no handshakes for the cameras, no carefully staged smiles, just a prince leaving faster than he arrived, while the king carried on as if nothing had happened. Commentators called it a 55-minute frostbite. And here's why this matters.
They met, but King Charles gave Harry the cold shoulder with no special treatment.
Harry didn't just walk away empty-handed. He walked away exposed. This wasn't the reconciliation his team teased to the press. This was Charles drawing a line and daring Harry to cross it. There's so much to unpack, and we need to dive in now before palace silence rewrites the narrative. From the moment Harry arrived, the tone was unmistakable. Cold, no warm embraces, no nostalgic nods to family memories, just protocol. Commentators likened it to a speed date gone wrong, stiff smiles and clock watching from the start. The meeting itself was shockingly brief.
Then Meghan had this really flash new PR team over in LA who were trying to make all these meetings happen.
Palace sources say the entire visit lasted less than 55 minutes, and of that, only around 20 minutes were spent in direct conversation. That's not a reunion, that's a courtesy slot in a crowded diary. Even more brutal, William was nearby but refused to attend. That absence spoke volumes. It wasn't just that the brothers were estranged, it was Charles making clear that William had no part to play in this particular meeting. For Harry, that absence underscored how isolated he has become inside the family machine. Observers noted the optics were carefully managed. No press invited, no photos released, just silence, and Harry emerging with an expression that one royal commentator described as thunderous. Online, the reaction was savage. Harry flew across the Atlantic for crumbs, and even those were swept off the table. It was the coldest of receptions, and the message was clear. This wasn't about reconciling father and son. This was the monarchy reminding Harry he's no longer part of the inner circle. If Harry thought this would be a quiet father and son catch-up, that illusion ended the moment Queen Camilla entered the room. Her presence shifted the tone instantly. What could have been framed as family became unmistakably institutional. With Camilla seated beside Charles, Harry wasn't talking to a parent. He was facing the king and queen together. For Harry, that was a nightmare scenario. In his memoir and interviews, he branded Camilla the villain, accusing her of sacrificing his reputation to repair her own.
That the king does with strangers. It's not the meeting that he does with loved ones.
Now here she was, unshaken, calm, and by Charles's side as if to prove she belonged there. Commentators described it like a boardroom ambush. Harry had walked in expecting private reconciliation, only to find himself outnumbered. The king had his queen as reinforcement, and the optics made Harry look like the outsider lobbying for favors. And the irony wasn't lost on anyone. The son, who once blamed Camilla for manipulating headlines, now sat across from her, powerless to control the story playing out in real time. She radiated composure, Charles radiated authority, and Harry radiated frustration. The calculus had changed. This wasn't a family talk, it was monarchy versus the lone prince, and with Camilla in the room, Harry's chances of swaying his father had already evaporated. So what did Harry actually come to Clarence House for? According to insiders, it wasn't just a polite visit, it was a pitch. And the list he laid on the table shocked even seasoned royal watchers. First on the list, money.
Harry is really deep in trouble at the moment, even financially. I mean, we know that Meghan's Jam failed to sell out. Her season 2 of her cooking show was an absolute disaster.
Despite multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix and past projects like Spotify, sources say Harry pressed for renewed financial support. Critics online were merciless, calling it going back to the bank of dad. Second, security. Ever since stepping down as a working royal, Harry has fought a bitter legal battle to reinstate taxpayer-funded protection. This time, he asked Charles directly to guarantee safety for himself, Meghan, and the children whenever they're in the UK. Third, recognition for his family. Titles for Archie and Lilibet were reportedly part of the discussion, with Harry arguing that his children deserve the same treatment as their cousins. To the public, though, this looked like a grab for prestige more than principle. And finally, whispers suggest Harry sought help with spiraling legal costs, a request some commentators compared to asking for a credit card limit increase during a family intervention. The optics of it were brutal. Instead of reconciliation, Harry's wish list looked like a royal shopping cart. Online, the backlash was instant. You don't demand perks from the very institution you've spent years trashing. What Harry saw as survival, the palace saw as entitlement, and for King Charles, there was only one possible response. If Harry thought his demands would spark negotiation, he miscalculated. Reports say King Charles listened, nodded, and answered with the kind of calm that chills the room. There were no raised voices, no dramatic outbursts, just silence and short, measured responses. A monarch's version of no. One insider described it as stonewall courtesy. Polite enough to avoid scandal, firm enough to leave no doubt. Camilla's presence only reinforced the mood. With her seated beside him, Charles wasn't just a father weighing requests. He was the king protecting the institution. The message was unmistakable. Family sentiment stopped at the door. Observers noted the power of what Charles didn't do. He didn't promise money. He didn't discuss security. He didn't entertain titles or legal assistance. He let the silence do the work. For Harry, that silence was devastating. He had flown across the Atlantic with a wish list, but instead of concessions, he was met with a wall of royal restraint. The king hadn't argued. He had simply refused to bend.
This man, I think, will be asking Dad for a little bit more money very, very quickly. I only see bad things on the horizon.
The crown had spoken without speaking, and Harry left knowing the answer was no. When the meeting wrapped, there was no lingering over tea, no warm father-son farewell. Harry walked out quickly, his stride brisk, his expression thunderous. Reporters waiting nearby didn't get a handshake, a smile, or even a carefully staged palace photo. The silence extended to the driveway, Harry slipping away without ceremony, Charles remaining inside, unbothered. And that's what made the optics brutal. The contrast was impossible to miss. The king, calm and immovable, the son looking like a man who had just lost an argument he never should have started. Social media had a field day. Memes flooded in, one comparing Harry's 55-minute visit to a dentist appointment. At least the dentist gives you a free toothbrush. Another went viral. Harry came for reconciliation but left with crumbs. The images told the story better than words. Charles projected authority, Harry projected frustration. And in a monarchy obsessed with appearances, that's the kind of imagery that sticks to the public memory long after the biscuits go stale. Within hours of Harry's departure, the spin machine kicked in. Some outlets rushed to frame the meeting as a step forward, the king graciously opening the door, Harry making a gesture of peace. Headlines leaned on words like reconciliation and bridge building, as if 55 minutes over tea had healed years of betrayal. But online, nobody was buying it. Social media dragged the narrative, calling it a palace performance. One viral comment read, "If that was reconciliation, then my last awkward Zoom call was a peace treaty."
Ridiculous. Once Meghan treated as an HRH, that's the most realistic on the list where you can go, I can see these two having the audacity.
Critics pointed out the obvious. If this was truly progress, why no photos, no joint statements, no smiles? The optics screamed rejection, not reunion. And Charles's silence afterward was telling. He didn't need to refute anything. He let Harry's hasty exit tell the whole story. In the court of public opinion, perception became reality. Charles looked steady, dignified, sovereign. Harry looked desperate, isolated, and outplayed. The press may have tried to soften the blow, but the internet decided otherwise. This wasn't healing. This was Harry leaving with nothing. Harry's empty-handed walkout didn't just bruise his ego, it cast a shadow over the Sussex brand. Since stepping away, Harry and Meghan's appeal has relied heavily on their proximity to the crown. Their Netflix series, tell-all interviews, and book deals thrive on insider access and royal revelations. But if the doors of Clarence House and Buckingham Palace remain shut, what's left to sell? Critics online were ruthless. No palace, no plot. Without royal access, their story risks going stale. Netflix may want drama, but recycled grievances only stretch so far. To stay relevant, they need fresh tension, fresh leaks, fresh battles, and that pressure could push them into riskier territory. And Meghan isn't spared from the fallout. Every rejection from the palace makes her look more like an outsider knocking from across the Atlantic. Instead of global power players, the Sussexes risk looking like exiles chasing a spotlight that keeps slipping further away. The Clarence House meeting was meant to show progress. Instead, it highlighted the gap. Harry on the outside, Charles unmoved inside. And in branding terms, that gap is deadly. For King Charles, the Clarence House showdown wasn't just about dealing with a son, it was about reinforcing the crown's authority. By keeping the meeting short, controlled, and devoid of concessions, Charles reminded the world how the monarchy wins, not through outbursts, but through patience. The royal institution doesn't rush, doesn't bend under pressure. It waits, and in waiting, it outlasts. Harry came in fast, armed with demands. Charles barely moved, yet the result was decisive. The king didn't need to argue, he simply held the line, letting optics and silence do the work. Commentators compared it to a chess game. Harry played aggressively, stacking his requests all at once. Charles responded with the slow, steady hand of a sovereign who knows the board favors him. The crown doesn't need checkmate in one move. It only needs to remind the opponent that the game is unwinnable. For Harry, that meant leaving with nothing. For Charles, it was a masterclass in royal endurance. The monarchy isn't just surviving the Sussex storm, it's proving it doesn't have to lift a finger to win. Decades from now, no one will recall what biscuits were on the table at Clarence House. They won't study the tea blend or the polite small talk. What history will remember is the image of Prince Harry walking out empty-handed, his father unflinching inside. For King Charles, the moment cements his image as a monarch who placed duty above drama. He didn't rant, he didn't cave, he didn't even explain. He let his silence and composure carry the weight of authority. For Harry, the optics are harsher. The prince who traded palace life for freedom returned with a wish list and left with nothing. Critics already frame it as the defining symbol of his fractured royal journey, the man who couldn't win back what he left behind. Commentators online distilled it into a brutal one-liner. History won't remember the 55 minutes, only the empty exit. That phrase has already stuck, becoming shorthand for the gulf between father and son, crown and exile. This wasn't just another awkward royal encounter. It was a legacy moment, one that will be replayed in documentaries and headlines for years as proof of how far Harry has fallen and how steady the crown remains. Prince Harry crossed the Atlantic for what was billed as peace talks. What he got was a cold cup of tea, a short audience, and silence that said more than words ever could. He came armed with a list: money, security, titles, even help with legal battles. But King Charles, flanked by Camilla, gave nothing. No promises, no progress, not even the optics of warmth. Just a reminder that the monarchy bends for no one, not even a son. In less than an hour, Harry's hopes for reconciliation turned into headlines about rejection. His exit was quick, his demands unanswered, and his public image further dented. Charles, meanwhile, looked unshaken. The monarch played the long game, and the crown won without lifting a finger. So was this Harry's last chance? Did he just slam the final door on reconciliation? Because if William follows Charles's lead, the window may already be closed. One thing's certain, Harry left Clarence House with nothing but history's harshest spotlight. This is Hollywood Daily Reports. Subscribe, stay tuned, and buckle up because this royal storm isn't over.